Hello everyone, my name is Rebecca, and in this week's video, my sister Reagan and I are going to be making an art piece together. I've been seeing a trend online where artists use bases like this one, and each artist will draw a character, and I thought that'd be a lot of fun to do with my sister. My sister also draws and has a YouTube channel called Reagan Doodles. So we started looking through a bunch of different options, and we felt like this base was the best fit for the two of us. We will start with me drawing my character, then we will go over to Reagan drawing her character. We will then bring both parts together and talk about the final result. So let's get started. Something I debated about a lot was drawing directly over the base or using it as a reference. And I ended up going with just using the base as a reference and not drawing over it. I did this because I felt like if I did draw over the base, it would change the way I draw too much and wouldn't be true to how I usually draw. I feel like it would influence my style. This is mostly because the way the characters are proportioned between the base's style and my style is different. But I also wanted to change up the pose just a little bit. Overall though, I wanted to try to get as close to the base pose as possible to make it so Reagan is still able to do her half of the picture. Oh, also the character of mine that I am drawing for this is my OC Faith. She is a side character in my webcomic My Next Door Neighbors. Out of the characters that I have, I feel like this pose best fit Faith, since she is girly and more on the outgoing side. She was kind of the only character I could see doing this pose. Well, I suppose I could see Anne or Chloe posing in this way, but I kind of wanted to select a newer OC and one that had a bigger role in a story. For Faith's outfit, I decided to go with high-waisted sweatpants and one of those fitted t-shirts that have the ribbed fabric. She will also have the shirt tucked into the pants. I wanted an outfit that felt cute and trendy, but I also didn't want the outfit to stray too far from the base pose. I didn't want elements of the outfit to possibly mess with Reagan's drawing, so I went with more fitted clothing items. Now that my sketch is done, we will go on to line art. Working on this illustration was quite nice because it felt like for the first time in a long time that I was just working on an average normal illustration. I feel like so far in 2025 I haven't made what I would consider standard illustrations, like something that is within my comfort zone and is using my standard work process. I'm not trying something majorly new, it's not just a sketch or silly doodles. So yeah, working on a piece of art that was just kind of my standard illustration process was really nice. But at the same time, I did feel a little rusty, like how do I do this again? How do I usually shade things? Also, it's probably pretty obvious by the footage, but I'm not showing you the whole process for the line art. I decided to use slower clips and just show you parts of the footage. I don't mind the sped up footage for line work, but I do find the slower footage to be nice to watch. A little detail I decided to include this time is fingernails. I always go back and forth on fingernails and if I like adding them or not. So sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. I decided to add them in this case because I thought making Faith have painted nails would be cute. Plus they can be really helpful for portraying the perspective of the fingers. Also, I have a story related to drawing fingernails, but I don't have time to tell it at the moment, so I'm going to circle back around to it in just a little bit. Because right now I want to talk about my base color choices. I wasn't sure which colors I wanted to make Faith's outfit be, so I brought in a color wheel. Then I decided to go with a square color scheme of pink, teal, yellow, and purple. At the time I really liked this, but later on I change over to a different color scheme, being yellow, pink, and teal. So I get rid of the purple later. Next I'm adding my cell shading for all of the shadows that I want to have a crisp edge. And once they are in place, I will go into softer shading. Okay, so my story related to drawing fingernails is that whenever I do draw fingernails in a picture, I think of this illustration I did back in 2022. And I always think of this picture because I got a comment pointing out that the fingernails are odd because some are more rounded while others are pointier, or more like a square shape. And I still think of this comment to this day because it struck me funny because I feel like this detail happened because of my own fingernails. Even though I will cut them and shape them to be similar in shape, after a while some of them always end up being more round and others will be very square. And this seems to just kind of naturally happen. So yeah, whenever I draw nails, I try to make sure I'm keeping them all the same shape. But sometimes my brain just wants to make them subtly different shapes, most likely because of my nails. Oh, so for shading the hair, I did a simple but fun method for shading it. I block in the shadows with cell shading and then locked the transparencies so that I can add different hues to the shading to make it have more variety. Like I added a warmer color around the top edges to make the lighting feel warmer. And I also added some purples and lighter colors here and there. And I just feel like it looks really neat. Once I had all the variations in place, I used the blending tool to blend out some parts so that the shading feels softer and also flows with the hair a little bit more. I also go in with darker colors to add more depth. They are really dark at first, but I lower the opacity to make them the value that I want them, and also blend them out using the blending tool. It's a little funny because my shading process is pretty similar for all colors, but I do always find some colors to be more fun to shade than others. And for some reason, pink is one of those ones that I really like shading. I'm not totally sure why, it's just fun to shade. I also find white to be fun to shade. My process for white is always a little bit different, but I always really enjoy it. Black hair can also be fun, but I do always find it to be on the trickier side. I think it's because for black you aren't really adding shadows too much, instead you are mostly adding highlights. So like I mentioned earlier, I wanted Faith's shirt to be made out of a ribbed fabric. If you don't know, ribbed fabrics often look kind of like this. And so to get that point across, I needed to draw the ribs in the fabric. And I highly considered not doing this because it felt like it was going to be a pain in the bum. But I also felt like it would also be a neat detail, so I went for it. And once I got started, it wasn't too bad. Some parts were a bit more confusing, and it was tricky to keep the spacing between lines correct. But overall, I feel like it went pretty smoothly and turned out okay. I do purposefully keep it pretty subtle because I don't want it to feel too busy. But like, I also don't want you to notice that it's kind of wonky. But a lot of times for ribbed textures in shirts, it can be pretty subtle. Oh, also, here's where I get rid of the purple. Because the purple was only in the shirt, it felt a bit out of place. So I edited the color to match the pants. That way the shirt and the pants feel a little bit more like a set and that they go together. And lastly, we have the eyes. It's always fun and a bit interesting drawing my webcomic characters in my illustrative style, because in my webcomic everything stays more on the simple side. But with my illustrations I add more things like hair details and the shading is a lot more fancy. I've gotten more used to seeing Doris for illustrations, since I will make illustrations of her kind of more often, but I rarely make illustrations of Faith, so it felt almost a little odd drawing her in this way. I did have a lot of fun with her hair though. Her hair is on the longer side, so I got to play around with how it's flowing and interacting with the body, and adding the different hair strands, so it was a lot of fun. And so here's my drawing of Faith. I feel like she turned out cute. And I sent this file over to my sister Reagan. I gave her just the silhouette of Faith because I don't want my coloring and style choices to affect what she does. I want to allow her to work in her own way, but also make it so she still knows how my character is positioned. So yeah, I will now hand the video over to Reagan.
Hello, welcome to my portion of the video. My name is Reagan. I'm a 19-year-old artist. I share my art on my YouTube channel, Reagan Doodles. You can also find me on Instagram at Reagan_Doodles. As you guys probably already know, I'm Rebecca's younger sister, and she had the idea to make this video, and I thought it sounded fun, so here I am. Rebecca and I both decided to draw our OCs. I'm drawing my OC Lily. I think I made Lily when I was about 13 years old. She has gone through a lot of changes throughout the years. She was from outer space, and then she was like a bad girl. Now she's a sweet girl that goes to high school with her twin brother. I'll talk more about Lily in a moment. Becca and I chose this space together. We didn't follow it to a T. Some things didn't look quite right to us and didn't work for the characters. For example, Lily is 5'9", and Faith is about 5'7", I think. So I had to change the base a bit because Lily is taller than Faith. I also decided to open one of Lily's eyes because I really like coloring and shading eyes, and I also wanted to show a bit more of my art style because I'm aware that some of you guys, this is your first time seeing my art or first time in a long time you've seen it. So I wanted to show a little bit more of what my art style usually looks like. For this pose, it wasn't an angle I usually draw. I will often draw poses in a 3/4 view, but I don't usually draw it as turned as this pose is. You basically can't see her top right shoulder, and it was interesting to draw for sure because I don't usually draw this, and it was fun having a different angle that I usually don't think is an option, even though it is. The pose is a little pushed. I tried doing this pose myself, and it's just a little uncomfortable. I can do it, but it's just a little bit uncomfortable, so It's a little pushed, but I feel like it turned out fine, and I think it looks decently fine. You can tell that I was uncomfortable drawing it based off of how clean my sketch got. The more uncomfortable I am drawing things, often the cleaner and cleaner the sketch gets, because I'm trying to figure out what's wrong and then I'm cleaning it up to see if that's the problem. And one reason I tried doing the pose myself is because Lily is proportioned a lot like me. I'm just a little taller than Lily. I'm 5'10" and Lily is 5'9". I made Lily 5'9" when I was younger, back when she was a bad girl, because I thought being like tall would make you like super cool and scary. Which is kind of funny that I thought being 5'9" is scary when I was younger, because I'm 5'10" now, so it kind of feels like being punched in the face by your younger self. You're like, oh, scary? I don't think I'm that scary. I mean, I've been told I'm a little intimidating because of my height, but luckily I don't have a very intimidating personality. I'm still working on who Lily is and how to put her into words. She has a lot of elements of myself in her. Of course, most of my characters have a little bit of me in them, but Lily has the most of me out of all my characters, which is why I feel like I have a hard time describing her. I'm someone who has a hard time describing myself. And plus, people are really complicated, so that's one thing also why I feel like it's hard to describe people, because often I feel like things often contradict. Like, I'll use the example. For example, I'm pretty outgoing. I love people and I can be considered energetic. Of course, my energetic side doesn't get shown to everyone. I can be energetic, but it's not like well known I'm energetic. But I love people so much and I love talking to people, but like I don't like attention being called to myself, and I don't like being in the spotlight. I imagine Lily feels very much the same way, that she loves people, but she doesn't want to call attention to herself. It's kind of one of those things that it feels like it shouldn't work, but it does work. And I feel like there's a lot of things like that with people. Of course, that example I just give isn't that crazy, but it's hard to perfectly describe someone in few words. So I need to be less perfect with it and probably just pick some words and go with it, or write out some examples of how her personality is. Now let's talk more about the picture. I'm not completely crazy about how the hands turned out. I feel like they look a bit chunky. I feel like I could have just done a better job drawing them in general. They're not horrible, but they're also not the best. I just feel like I've noticed recently I'm not as crazy about how I draw hands, so I probably need to do a bit more practicing for that, or just keep drawing a bit more, and I should be able to figure out how I can like my hands just a little bit more. But at the same time, I always kind of enjoy when characters have big hands and big feet in drawings, or kind of bulky hands. For the line art, I made sure to draw all the lines, and I also made sure to fully color this picture too, because Becca's going to be placing her picture on top of mine. Becca gave me a silhouette of Faith to use as a reference, or to make sure Lily lines up correctly. The reason Becca gave me a silhouette is so her art style wouldn't throw me off at all, in the same way that the base can throw you off a bit. Like, while I was sketching, I found the base kept throwing me off because I kept wanting to copy the base subconsciously, and it kept throwing me off. So eventually I just had to like turn off the base and just like sketch, because how they have their characters proportioned. And the same thing for Becca's drawing. I only can imagine if I had her drawing sitting there and the base, how much my art style would get thrown off. So that's why she gave me the silhouette, because she personally gets thrown off too when someone's art is right beside yours. Because there's this part of you that wants to make it match and make them blend together a whole bunch and look similar. But the point of this is to showcase the differences of our art, our drawings, and to show how our art is different and what they look like next to each other. The shading is pretty normal, usual, and simple. I wish I did something a little more fun for the outfit. It's a little plain. I wish I did something a little more interesting. I didn't want it, though, to be too similar to Faith's outfit, so I did keep my outfit more on the simpler side. I might go in and change the outfit just a little bit, but if I do, you'll see that when I show my drawing. It was also fun getting to draw this picture because it's been a really long time since I've made a finished picture. I learned earlier, it was about like June, July-ish last year, that I made a finished picture with line art and fully colored it, which I just thought was crazy. I can't believe it's been that long since I made a finished picture. And I honestly want to start making finished pictures again, because it's something I do like. and I really want to get into it again and stop making so many sketchy, painty drawings. Even though those are fun, I really enjoy line art and how it looks. I want to try making more art that I really enjoy looking at. But yeah, I had so much fun making this picture. I really have been wanting to draw Lily so much, and I think this picture turned out pretty cute. I can't wait to see them both put together. I think it's gonna be so fun seeing Faith and Lily interact because they're both so cute, and I feel like they both kind of give similar energy, so it's gonna be fun to see them next to each other. I can't wait.
Okay, so Reagan and I are now together to look at the picture.
Hello again.
So here is the picture.
I think it's fun seeing them next to each other, especially how we use shapes, because as I'm looking at them, it emphasizes how yours has a level of sharpness and boxiness to it.
Yeah, that's something I didn't notice until I saw them side by side. I was like, oh wow, my art is kind of more, like you said, sharp and a little bit more like boxy, or has more like ridges, I guess, if that makes sense. Whereas yours is much more round, and I feel like that's something I never really picked up on until like just now.
I feel like it's also, you draw a lot of your inspiration from older anime, and older anime is a lot more sharper. I draw a lot more from modern anime and cartoons.
Yeah.
So sometimes I feel like my art gains a level of cartooniness to it.
Right.
And I feel like you can really see the inspiration of old anime in like your eyes, for example.
For sure.
Because you see that sharpness coming through.
Yeah, that's very true. Because when I was learning to draw, it was like all the how to draw books were still the very classic anime and manga. It's also interesting seeing like what's the same and what's different between our shading styles, because like there is like a lot of like things we both do, but there's also things that we do very differently.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of overlap in ways. Even if they're not completely similar, like I noticed that your hair in the shadows has the swooping motion, but I do the swooping for the highlights. And you do it for the shadows too.
I think it's funny how similar we shade the noses. It's like such a small thing that's like the same we do.
Your noses are a lot more sharp than mine.
For sure.
I feel like my noses are very round. But again, that's that sharp and round coming in.
You're right, for sure.
I think it's cute how you put teal on Faith's side and you put pink on my side, and then you unite them with like a more of a purple color. I think it's cute.
Yeah, I was playing around with the background for so long, I could not decide. I tried so many colors, so many shapes and patterns, and I eventually decided on this one. I was trying to find things that felt cohesive between the two characters, and I added in the purple just because like it felt like a nice complementary color to all the colors, even though there's no real purple in the picture. And so I thought it just kind of brought the two characters together, since it's kind of a color they both don't have, but it still goes nicely with it. So yeah, this was a really fun experiment, I feel like. It lets us see like things we do similar, but also things we do very different. I feel like you can definitely tell they're like sister styles, I suppose.
Yeah. There's a lot of things we draw a similar inspiration from. I feel like your art is overall more delicate. I feel like a lot of my things are a little bigger and chunkier in some ways. I don't know if chunky's the word for it.
Well, kind of going for that more cartoony look, like you were saying.
Yeah, I feel like there's a level of cartooniness my art does have, while very much still looking anime.
So yeah, I feel like this was a lot of fun, and thank you for doing it with me.
No problem. I had a lot of fun doing it. It was lots of fun.
Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!